And we're live. All right. Hi, I'm Dr. Rusty Barrier. This is Dr. Tricia Seymour, and welcome to IntelliKea. What are we talking about tonight, Trish?
Good question. So, I have to read Releasing the Past using rapid techniques like EFT, ETT, EMDR, and Daleth Breathwork. You can release past, old, stuck emotions, traumas, fears, and phobias. Rapid release techniques are simple yet profound methods to have your personal healing arsenal, as you move through the game of life.
Okay.
So, we talk a lot about oneness and a lot about what the world looks like from a space of connection and how you see the world that way. Yet we also know, as we were just mentioning a minute ago, that you also have to know how do you live each day. So it's great to have a grandiose plan of, I want to walk up to God, Goddess, and have a conversation and chat or merge or be one. But there's also things that we have to deal with every single day. One of the analogies that I like is, was given to me by Carolyn Mace, and she said, imagine you have $100, and every day you're handed $100, and you can use those $100 however you want. They're emotional dollars, I should put it that way. Most of us,
they don't accumulate.
No, most of us, you can't save them. Most of us use that $100 by worrying about the past, thinking about the past, having the past influence us, or thinking about or worrying about the future and having the future be a part. So our emotional dollars go to the past and the future, and then today we're exhausted, we're tired, we can't focus, we're stressed because you have energy in the past and energy in the future, and you don't have any left for today.
And by the way, a lot of the times you may be spending money on the past, but you're also spending because you're projecting the past into the future. And this is why you really want to release that past, is because it becomes a filter over everything that you experience in the present moment. Right? And then you go, well, that's what's happened then, it's what's happening now, I bet that's going to happen in the future, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, and if you're stuck in either the past or the future, then you aren't in the present. So if you're not in the present, that's where source is. That's where
life is.
That's where our energy is. That's where everything that matters is really in the present. Now it's easy to say, oh, just let go of it, right? Just let it go. Don't worry about it. That's so far gone. It's harder to do that because it's in our cells. There's something, we all have genetics that we're born with, but there's something called epigenetics.
Mm-hmm. And epigenetics are the things that happen within our current life, are the lives of our parents that made an imprint at the genetic level. Mm-hmm. We can talk about it emotionally, but probably the one that's the easiest to comprehend is that if your family, well, I'll go back, my grandparents, who raised me, grew up in the Great Depression here in the States. So they dealt with drought, they dealt with famine, they dealt with a whole lot of stuff during that time that very definitely altered their opinions and their beliefs about how life worked. But it also changed at the cellular level, because now, from my dad to me, there's that ability that, was a sense of never quite enough to eat sometimes, so it leads to things like overeating. Okay, just that's a simple example.
Mm-hmm. So epigenetics are more things that have happened to you or to your family or your, recent life. So I heard a doctor once say that everyone has a potential, every cell in your body has a potential for cancer, but not everybody gets cancer. And so you have to look at both genetics and epigenetics to see whether or not that's going to happen in your family and in your life. So all that to say, not sure why we got off on that.
I don't know, you're the one who started it.
How did I get off on epigenetics? Oh, I was just talking about events, that events happen in your life. And when events happen in your life, they affect you, not just mentally, emotionally, but they can also affect your DNA, right? They can cause stomach problems or back problems or things. Emotional things can actually cause physical problems.
Well, and so can thought patterns create physical problems. If you are constantly in a state of stress, and you're thinking about, you know, all the things that could go wrong in life, and you know, it begins to raise the cortisol level in your body, which is not a pleasant thing for your body. It sets off a whole chain of endocrine reactions to that. For those of you who've been in my breath groups before, you know that I've said that the other place that happens and why you want to release the past is it gets stored in the cell structure of your body. Cellular memory. Now this is different than muscle memory. You know, being a former athlete, muscle memory is I can still do this without even thinking about it because my body did it so many times. Cellular memory is a little different. It's literally, in that case with the breath work, it is the neurochemistry that transmits the emotions and feelings through the body. And they just stuck. And when you let it out, it clears. It makes a huge difference.
So, the analogy we use is a video game. So we imagine that we're living in a video game and we're playing and we're working our way up levels, and every time you think about or something happens that reminds you of the past, or you get stuck in the past, it's like it pulls you back down. It's like a weight pulling you back down the levels. And so it's very difficult to continue to move forward on your path if you still have a lot of old unresolved stuff. As we mentioned before, we've talked about shadow work. That's dealing with some of that as well, some of the stuff that's inside you don't want to look at, some of your past, your history, your trauma that you don't want to face, you don't want to admit. That's important, and that's a big step in order to release and move forward on this, in this game. The other thing is just these things that we just talked about, whether it's trauma, whether it's genetics, epigenetics, letting go of what's holding you back. You mentioned the depression, so holding you back financially might be the mentality of scarcity.
Correct, that there's not enough. You don't want, you're afraid, and I'll pick on my dad here. My dad would never invest, all right? Because money under the mattress was better than money in the stock market. Now, I understand that. I've watched it go up and down, but there's also that sense that you have to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone to grow. And that's really what this is about. You're very comfortable with your traumas. You're very comfortable with the things that, you may not like them, but you're comfortable with them. They're
familiar.
They're familiar. And to let go of them means you're going to have to step outside of that identity. And that's the other thing that really happens with this stuff, you know, trauma and drama, all that from the past, is we begin to turn it into our identity, all right? How many times has someone you've just met and they go, I'm a trauma survivor. Well, that's great. You might want to hold that off for a while, right? But they've made it an identity. When I was running the Centers for Attitudinal Healing and we were dealing with people who had catastrophic and terminal illness, that was one of the first things that we worked with them on is, you have an illness, do not let it become your identity. You are not a cancer patient. You are who you are, and your body happens to have. Right? And that's the way we look at it. It's the way I definitely look at it on many levels with things.
Right. And so letting go of the past is, you know, the question would be, okay, so if I need to do that, what do I need to let go of? And how do I do that? Right? So,
and by the way, the reason we tend to store memories of the past is they help us survive. It's literally a human survival technique. I mean, if you were out there in caveman days and you ate a berry and next thing you know you were puking your guts out, you had to remember that berry and not to eat it again. Right? So that's why we tend to hold on to things from their past. It is a survival mechanism. What I would like you to consider is it's time to move past survival. Let's move into thriving. Let's move into ascending. Let's move into the true entelecheia of who you are.
which means what?
Entelecheia is actually a Greek word, and it means the divine essence within. So the entelecheia of an acorn is an oak tree. The entelecheia of a cygnet is a swan, and of a human being, a god or goddess. We are designed to grow spiritually that way. The body will always be the body, but that is not who you are.
Mm-hmm. And so identifying what it is you want to let go of, what it is that's been holding you back or pulling you back down those levels. What is it that from your past that keeps rising its head? And how do you then move beyond that? So the reason to move beyond is
clarity, happiness,
right.
Peace of mind.
Right, being more
Right.
present, not allowing the past or the worries about the future to affect you. Now, when I say letting go of, I don't mean, you mentioned a couple examples. I'm not talking about forgetting.
No.
There's a difference between letting go of and forgetting. Just like that berry, right? You want to remember that berry makes you sick so you don't do it again. So you want to remember this kind of relationship, this toxic relationship wasn't good for me. I don't want to do that again. I don't want to forget.
You want to remember the red flags.
I want to remember all that, but I don't want the emotions that
Right.
are controlling me.
Correct.
Our emotions are controlled from our past or what are controlling our current life and our current evolution as a human. And so we want to let go of the emotional attachment, the identity, as you said. The other identity, which is helpful for some people, for a while, is I am I'm an alcoholic, I'm a trauma survivor, I'm a substance abuser. We get into these identities that become who we are, and it's time to move beyond them.
They may have been extremely important
Right.
to you in the moment
Certainly
that
at
they
the time, right.
came about. But we grow, we move. And what we're really talking about tonight in releasing stuff is the emotional side of it. And there's a lot of relatively modern and some very ancient ways to start clearing that. Some of the modern ones are ETT. Won't you tell them about it?
Oh, okay. Emotional transformation therapy. That's what I do in a private practice. If you're watching the video and you're not here, there are other practitioners, there just aren't that many, that do that. And it's a way to release with color and light and frequencies. We do flashing as well as a color and light chart to help you move through things. And what ETT is able to do is it's literally able to, you come with an idea, like, I remember this trauma, I remember this event, I want to not have it run my life anymore. And we talk through it very quickly in one session, and it pulls the roots up out of your psyche. It pulls up the roots and helps you put the pieces together so that by the end of the session you feel better.
You have integrated the experience rather than being trapped within it.
Rather than being trapped within it. That's a good example.
As Tricia said earlier, we're both, PhDs in counseling psychology. We've both been licensed professional counselors and supervisors for 30 plus years. And one of the things we both saw is traditional therapy, you're just rehashing.
Right.
You're rehashing. Sure, I can talk about it, I can feel the trauma again, I can cry about it, I can get some catharsis. Oh crap, I'm gonna go do it again next week, and it's the same thing. I know you had one young lady who came to you, said she'd been doing therapy for what, 20 years?
Something like that, a very long time. And she did one session and it cleared a lot of stuff. Not gonna say one session is gonna clear everything, but there are a number of rapid therapeutic techniques that can really help you move through things faster. Another one is, and so that's emotional transformation therapy. Another one is EMDR, and that has to do with more eye movements as you talk through traumas and work through traumas. It's gotten much more popular than ETT, and there's a lot of practitioners that do EMDR.
Well, it's been around a lot longer.
About the same time.
EMDR? Okay.
Help you, a lot of practitioners that can help you release stuff. What we're talking about is finding the things that still are triggers inside of you, finding the old patterns, the things that are still from your past bothering you, and then finding more rapid ways to release those and let those go.
Another one is called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique.
Also known as tapping.
This is the one where you see people kind of doing this, and all that. And it works very well. And you're starting to hear with this that it's about bypassing your ego mind with these. When you're doing EMDR, you're starting to get focused on the movement, and your mind says, okay, I don't know what to do with this. And now everything can come up and begin to integrate. With the color and the light, you're looking at her chart, and it's the same thing. Your ego says, this doesn't compute to me, and kind of steps aside. EFT is actually hitting some of the ancient Chinese acupuncture points and acupressure points. So where you're literally reprogramming how things flow through your mind and your body.
And all of those ways, and there's many, many other techniques too, but all of those techniques, the whole goal is to allow the past events to not affect you anymore. To pull the roots up of the emotions and not have them affect you. Not that you're going to forget what happened. You're still going to remember what took place, but it won't have the emotional charge on it, and therefore won't control your current life. And that's what we're looking for. Not, allowing you to not go backwards in the game every time you remember what happened in the past. That pulls you back.
And also, the other reason for clearing that is so the next time something similar happens, you don't revert to that old pattern yourself. Now, we've told, we've joked back and forth about when we first started dating now almost 27 years ago. And being both therapists, we would get triggered, we still have our stuff, and she would look at me and she goes, "I'm not your mother," and I would look at her and go, "I'm not the man who hurt you," and that would immediately allow us to pop out of that filter that we had put up. Now, when you're in a relationship with someone who's not accustomed to that, those are not the right things to say. They will not go over well until you at least discuss what you're talking about and why, right?
But you even mentioned before, like athletes. If an athlete has an injury,
right,
and they hurt their shoulder or their foot or their hand, then when they get healed, physically they're fine. They go back into play, and you see they're not quite there. They're jerking a little. They're not quite as confident because they're like protecting that area, right?
So that area is actually protecting itself. That's where the tension comes from. I worked with a player here locally, can't use his name, never got that permission, but he was a wide receiver, and he had leg injury, and what happened is he would start flinching when he saw someone coming. So if he's trying to catch and he's starting to flinch, that's not a good turnout. What I do is another one of the things we'll talk about is called breathwork, Daleth Breathwork, and he came in for 5 sessions, and he discovered that in that time, as he let go of the trauma from that very hard hit he took at that point to cause the injury, he didn't flinch. He didn't even think about it anymore. He just became aware that suddenly it wasn't there. It was just gone. The smoothness of his movement was back. Right? Those types of things.
Right, and that happens both physically, like with athletes, but it also happens for all of us emotionally, right? And so, let's say we had a bad relationship, and now we're going to go date again, and we have dinner with somebody, and they say one word that reminds us of our ex, right? Or make one gesture, or like one thing similar to our ex, we're like, "Whoop, I'm out of here," It's like my reaction's over the top, because I'm like, "Whoa, no, that's too much." No, I don't want to have pattern again. And it may actually just be that, they like spaghetti and so did your ex. So I mean, it really may be nothing serious.
Stuff.
But you still have that emotional reaction inside, and so it ends up over the top. And so those are the things that you want to look at and figure out so you can clear them with one of these rapid techniques so that they don't control your life. Because again, every time that trigger happens, every time that that emotion that's way bigger than the event, you're like, wait a minute, this was a little bitty event, this emotion you're showing me is really big, they don't go together. When that happens, those are the things that pull you back down the game and pull you back down the levels of the game, because there's things you still have to resolve, let go of, move on. And breath work?
And breath work. Well, we're going to step back. Some of the things we're talking to you about will require that you work with us or someone who does these things, trained in these things. Others, like EFT, breath work, they're self-empowerment tools. Once you learn the process, you can do it on your own anytime you want. You have your own fingers, you have your own lungs. That's really about all those two take. Breath work. There's lots of different types of breathing out there, folks. It's all good. All right.
You need to breathe.
Keep
breathing.
Yeah.
Don't stop.
Don't stop.
Please keep breathing.
That's the secret to growing healthy. Don't stop breathing.
Keep breathing.
But most of the breath work that you will learn out there in the general public is to calm you down. Okay, you're stressed out. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Take 3 breaths. All those things that we've all heard. Even the yogic breathing, a lot of times, is to calm your mind and your body down. And that's wonderful. Daleth Breathwork is a little different. It's designed to make you lose control and to get your mind to just say, screw it, I'm out of here. So your soul can come in. And that's really, folks, everything we're talking to you about, every talk that we give to you on these things is really saying, go find out who you are at your essence. And that requires plowing past all the shadows of the past relationships and past beliefs and blah, 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 blah. All right. But that's what we're here working with you for. When we look at you, that's what we see. We don't see bodies, eyes, behaviors. We really see the soul. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say that I don't see bodies. I do. I'm in a physical body. Obviously, that's what I see. But that's not my focal point when I'm looking at someone. And it certainly is not when I'm working with someone. Mm-hmm. So, anything else I need to add on breathwork, or was that all you wanted?
Whatever you want to say.
Okay. No, I think that covered it for the moment.
So, so there are many, many different ways to release the past. There are many ways to do it very quickly. The one that he mentioned, which is tapping, is something you can, EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, you can look it up online. There's videos online of how to do it.
Well, I think we got a few minutes. You might want to just teach it to them.
We, the first time when I learned it, we learned it actually from the founder of the,
Gary Craig.
Gary Craig, the founder of the process. And he used Emotional Freedom Technique with a lot of different issues. But the biggest one he had done some research with was war veterans that were having PTSD and nightmares. And he actually got to go into the VA and do his research. And so he went into the VA and he would work with the war veterans who couldn't sleep through the night because that's when all the stuff that happened when they were at war, all the bombing, shelling, flashbacks, that's when they would be the worst. So every one of them were not sleeping well. Well, you know, when you don't sleep well, you don't feel right, right? And if you don't sleep well, long term, it can create some emotional issues, from depression to anxiety to even psychotic breaks. So you want to make sure that you get enough sleep. But they weren't sleeping. They were waking up. They were having nightmares. It was not a good thing. Right. And so he worked with them and did a number of sessions. Very simple technique. A number of sessions with them, and by the end of his time with them, in just a very short time, they were sleeping through the night and did not have nightmares, and were able to let go of the trauma. Lots of people now teach it. Like I said, you can find it on YouTube with great videos. So I will just show you the basics. There's a new one out called, what did I say the other day? Eutaptic, something like that, which is a little bit different, and it evolves as you work with it. But when I first learned it, I literally learned the technique, and then I went through any possible trauma that might be in my entire life. Somebody stole my teddy bear, I tapped on it. I did anything that might have been traumatic in my life to try to see if I couldn't move it through.
I burnt your bison burger. You did tap on that one.
Everything, anything at all that bothered me, right? So, so the way that they do it is called the setup, and it's this meaty part of your hand. And as he said, it focuses on acupuncture points, acupressure points. And you just tap right here. I call it a karate chop. And verbally, what you do is you think of an issue, and you create like a name to the issue. So let's say, I'll make something up. I was in a car accident on the way here. I was not, but let's say that happened. But I was really upset and frenetic about the fact that I had a car accident. So I would think that instead of telling you the whole story about the car accident every time, I make a title, and the title is car accident.
Sort of like the title of a movie.
So for me, I would remember the emotions. So when I thought about the car accident today, the emotions would start to come up. It has to be a title that fits, and we're looking for a little bit of emotional reaction. So it's like, oh yeah, car accident, or really bad traffic, or whatever. And so I would go, even though I had a car accident today, I deeply and profoundly accept myself.
Hear those words. I deeply and profoundly accept myself.
And the more you can say it with true emotion, the better it is, but it isn't required. So you say this 3 times, the same thing. Even though I had a car accident today, I deeply and profoundly accept myself. Even though I had a car accident today, I deeply and profoundly accept myself. And that's called the setup here on the karate chop, and that's the first part. After that, you move to your points on your face, and now all you have to say is car accident. So you go right here by the front of your eyebrow, and you tap a couple times, just keep tapping and just say car accident, car accident, car accident, car accident. The next spot is your temple, and you tap and you just say car accident, car accident, car accident. Then you go under your eye, right about the middle on that bone, and you just say car accident, car accident, car accident. Next is right on your upper lip, right above, right between your nose and your lip, car accident, car accident, car accident. Then your lower, right in your chin, car accident, car accident, car accident. Then your bone right here, there's like a bone kind of on the side here. You just tap, you make a little fist, and you go car accident, car accident, car accident. And then the next is right under your arm, right under your armpit where you can reach, car accident, car accident, car accident. And that's it. And then you take a deep breath. And you see if the emotions have subsided some. Now, as you do it, you may need to do it more than once. I personally do the other side just because I'm weird and I like to be balanced, but it is not required each time you do the setup. But now let's say I feel better about the car accident I had today. I'm not all weirded out by it, but I remembered, crap, I was in a really bad car accident 20 years ago. Oh, that's what brought it all up. So now I have this car accident from 20 years ago. So then I just take a minute and I think about that car accident, that really bad car accident. And I go, oh yeah, I can feel that, yep. 20 years ago I had a really bad car accident. So now I do the same thing, but now I'm going to change the words a little because this is a different story. So I'm going to say, even though I had that really bad car accident, I deeply and profoundly accept myself. Even though I had that really bad car accident, I deeply and profoundly accept myself. Even though I had that really bad car accident, I deeply and profoundly accept myself. And then I do the same thing. Tap here, really bad car accident. Oof, actually did have one. Really bad car accident. 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 Really bad car accident.
And it's a cleansing breath is what it is to just recenter yourself.
And then you kind of tap in and see how I'm feeling. And sometimes the emotion changes.
And one of the things you didn't mention in the beginning is when you think of that event, kind of do it on a scale of 1 to 10. And you'll hear us use that scale a lot with different healing modalities, because 1 will always be, no big deal, and 10, oh my God, this is awful. Because then your mind has a baseline point. Okay, if you're at a 10 and you do tap, 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 and you go through that car accident, and you go, and you suddenly think about it again, and you go, okay, I'm at an 8, and you see a shift. Or you go, oh, I'm 0, it's gone. Which, by the way, does happen sometimes on just one time around. Not often, sometimes.
But if you need to do it again, you change the words and you say, even though and I would encourage you to use an emotion. I didn't do it that time. Really upset about a car accident, really depressed, really nervous. And so even though I'm really upset about that bad car accident, so now I'm thinking the word isn't really upset. Now it's, I don't know, embarrassed. You know, so I mean the emotion may shift as you're going through it, and then you do it again with that emotion. So that's a really quick overview of EFT, and it can be used for anything. And it is self-empowering, as Rusty said, because you can go home and do this tonight. And like I said, take an event, and you may have to do that one event multiple times, and you may have different emotions arise and mention the different emotions, but use it for a lot of things and see if you can't clear a lot of that old gunk that's just been hanging on. That really, you know, maybe you've been to therapy, maybe you read books about it, maybe you've worked at letting it go, and it just hasn't gone yet. And it's time. it's time, because again, if you don't let go of it, it keeps pulling you back to the past, back down. Your life doesn't function as well, and the more of that you can let go, the better your life will function, the better things will move, and the farther and easier you'll go up the game of life, so that you'll be able to continue to rise up and feel worthy of all the great things that come into your life.
And while I'm very happy having been a counselor all these years, I will be very honest, I would prefer you to be able to go out and do the work on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you do not need to pay me or Tricia for the rest of your life just to feel like a normal human being.
No.
All right?
No.
Find those tools that help you do it on your own, please.
Mm-hmm.
There's another one that we can touch on called you and energetics. Again, that's not one that you can do on your own yet. You'll have to go take training in that. It's a little more complicated than EFT. But this is again one that can, because Tricia talked about epigenetics in the beginning, and this is something that truly works with the epigenetic system and the genetic system, because it's about flipping switches. And if you think about that, the human body is really a biocomputer, right? That's what it is. And in any computer, we're on binary code, ones and zeros. One is on, zero's off. So when you're using you and energetics, basically what you're doing is you're looking inside the person, you're tapping into the person you're working with, and you are seeing which switches are on that need to go off and which are off that need to go on. And it's extremely rapid. For me, this is less about, it is about letting go of the past, because that gets wrapped in there very quickly, but this is the most beautiful pain relief thing you will ever find, and it is so rapid, it will make your head spin. So.
Yeah, all of these techniques are good for lots of different things.
Yeah.
Physical improvement, psychological improvement, relationship improvement, all of that. And being able to do it yourself or find a practitioner that can help you move through quickly. But the important thing is that you learn to let go of all those pieces. That'll just mean let it go. I mean, you truly do the work and you move it through and you move it on so that it no longer affects your life, and you can continue on your spiritual journey, not being sucked back all the time.
And all of these work inside the human energy system. They would technically be considered energy therapies, both psychology therapies and physical therapies, to help you move better. So they are all in that realm of energy work.
The other thing they're really good for is fears and phobias.
Oh Lord, yes.
Those go away really fast. If you have any fears or phobias, any of these techniques will help you quickly get over it.
And sometimes we're working on one area, and the phobia that you had for a long time that you'd forgotten about at that moment clears. You don't even have to be aware of it. With the breath work, my favorite story on that one is I had a young lady who came in to see me as a client, and she says she was getting married. Okay, there is no stress in setting up a wedding, right?
Yeah, right.
So she wanted to get a little less stress in her life right before the wedding. So she came in, she got on my table, did the breath session, went happily along her way, felt much better, less stress. Called me the next day and she goes, Rusty, does this stuff get rid of phobias? You know, I was new at it. I said, well, I don't know, what happened? She says, well, I have had a lifelong fear of spiders. So intense that if she knew there was a picture of a spider in a book in the room she was going into, she could not go in the room. This was an intense phobia for her. I said, yeah, that's a phobia. And she says, well, this morning I was at my fiance's lying in bed, and he's got a deer head mounted over the bed. Whole new set of questions.
Has to be Texas. Has to be Texas.
I'm thinking, I don't mind hunting, don't mind having mounts, but over the bed. But she said, I'm laying there and I look up, and out of the deer's nostril is a spider coming down a web towards my face. And she said, I just went, and then realized what I had done, and I had no emotion about it. She said, later in the day, I was cleaning the house, which kind of brings up more questions with this one, and I bumped a room divider and something fell on my arm. He hadn't probably cleaned his house in a while.
Say bachelor.
Yeah. And she just said, I just did this and kept going. She said, normally I would have been screaming, I'd have left the house and wouldn't have come back. Right? And it clears. That's how fast some of these things can work, and how almost mystically. I won't say miraculously, it is, but mystically is better because you just don't know it's even happening when it does. So I'm gonna hop out on a limb here. Anybody got, you don't have to get on camera, you don't have to say your name. Anybody got an ache or pain right now? What you got?
It's lower back pain.
You've heard the thing, 1 to 10, where are you?
3.
3? Well, that's not much of a pain. Well, we'll work on it.
It's a pain.
It's a
Mostly
pain.
when you sit or when you stand?
Mostly when I sit. Cushion.
It's
Why
the
you brought a
cushion.
cushion. It's a cushion. Good deal.
Would you like it to be lower than 3?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Do you know the cause?
I pulled my back about a month ago, and it hasn't cleared up since. It's trying to hold my dog back from.
So it's kind of left over from a month
An
ago.
injury.
Yeah,
An
it's
injury a
gotten
month ago.
better over the last month, but it's still like hanging on.
Okay. All right.
You want to do it? You want me to do it?
I don't care.
I don't either.
Go for it.
All right.
So close your eyes for just a minute and take a couple of slow, deep breaths. Just kind of allow your body to relax. You can wiggle a little bit.
And what I'm doing here is just for my mind. It has no meaning to anything else.
And just allow your, you can wiggle your shoulders a little. You don't have to sit completely still, but I want you to just feel your body. Be present in your body. And just take a few more slow, deep breaths.
Take a deep breath. You may want to stand up and wiggle. You may just want to wiggle in your chair. How do you feel?
Any different?
Honestly, it feels about the same.
About the
Okay.
same?
All right. Stand up and turn around for me. Just with your, there you go.
Does it hurt when you stand or just when you sit?
All the time.
Okay, so that's a little bit different. And it hurts when you move and wiggle too, or does it better when you move
It
and
feels
wiggle?
better. Like if I pop it, it feels.
You can hear all that popping going on. All that crunching. Alright. Just stay there just a minute. And just breathe. Again, you can move a little bit and see if that makes a difference. Lots of popping and crunching. So you were with your dog? He pulled you or something?
Mhm.
And how are you now?
Well, now it does feel better. Yeah.
Sit down, see if it still feels better.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. That, folks, is you and energetics.
So was it 3? What is it now?
I'm sure now it's probably 0.
0? I'll take 0 from 3. Yeah, but that's how all of these rapid techniques, well, congratulations. It's time to be over it, right? Let it go. We don't need it back.
Release the past.
We'll release the past.
Release the trauma.
Right. That's what this is. So all of these techniques are really fast. And that's why we say, even as psychotherapists, you don't need to be in therapy for 30 years. You don't need to go to gazillion hours of whatever. Things can actually be let go of pretty quickly. We have to, once we identify what it is, maybe even where it came from, in your case with the dog, when it actually affects you, you know, in your case again it was physical, so it affects you when you're sitting, then we can pinpoint and help it move on. You don't need it, right?
No.
You don't need that pain, so we'll get rid of it.
That's
Right.
pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's really what all of these things do, whether it's tapping, or the light and color work with the flashing of the color, or breath work, or energetics, or energy medicine. All of those things can help things move very, very quickly. Very, very fast.
Now, I couldn't do anything for the folks out there in the video world right then, but for those of you here, let's do about 2 minutes of deep circular breathing just sitting in your chair, right? So you can get a sense of what that type of work might be.
Yes, on the video, don't do this when you're driving.
Yeah, don't do it while you're driving.
Or
well, don't close your eyes while you're driving ever, but
it's funny you have to say that, right? You have to actually tell people that.
yeah. Alright, so this breath is different than what you've done. It is in and out through your mouth. Hold your mouth a little open like you got a quarter in there. And just breathe from here to here. And it's just if your mouth's dry, swallow.
Focus on inhaling, lots of air in, just let the exhale be like a sigh.
Now just let your breath drop back to normal. How do you feel in your body? Any tingles? Any lightheadedness?
My head feels swimming.
Mm-hmm. That's about getting more oxygen to your brain than it's had in a while. But that's a very short version of Daleth Breathwork. Now imagine doing that for 45 minutes, and that's the session.
Then you're laying down.
Yeah, you're not sitting in a chair and you're not standing up. Because you will get lightheaded, swimmy, and if you're laying down, you can't fall anywhere. So, but it's amazing what that simple little technique will do. Even if you just do that for 10 minutes a day,
Even a few minutes.
even a few, it doesn't have to be all 10 at once. It could be a minute here, a minute there. By the way, that was about 45 seconds that we just did. Right? But it becomes cumulative, and it's about getting that energy moving. It's the prana moving through your body, and it begins to clear out a lot of the neurochemistry that's stuck in your cells from old traumas, and life. And it just lets you get clearer and clearer, and the clearer you get, the more you release those things that you've held on to, the dramas, the traumas, all that crap. All right, the more present you are here, the less filters you have between you and everything else that you're looking at and experiencing out there. And that's really what all this is about. That's why, as we are all moving, and folks, if you haven't noticed this, pay attention. It seems like the energy level on the planet's getting a little higher. Stuff that was hidden is kind of coming to the surface, right? That's what's happening with you as an individual. This stuff is going to come to the surface. Let's do it with grace and ease. Let's practice the tools that will help us get rid of it and move forward without having to beat our head on the wall. Anything else?
I think that's it.
All right.
We can turn this off. Yep. Thank you.
And we're going to stop this for a few minutes. You can stretch, do whatever you need, then we're going to turn it back on and do the Q&A.